you learn nothing from success. You learn everything from failure. And you really need to learn how to take those hits head on at first, because if you don't know how to take the criticisms, and if you don't know how to humble yourself and listen to yourself and really, be true to yourself, know where you're starting, then you're never going to get very far, because if you're so self-conscious with how bad you sound when you start or how you don't know how to do something, there will never be a right time to start. I turn my key music up and I'm putting my dress. I'm turning ready to face you. And I'm obsessed. It's not your fault that they love it. No disrespect. It's my right to be hellish. I still get jealous. You're too sexy, beautiful. Everybody wants a taste. That's why.
Where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years in terms of the music industry or music in general?
Definitely doing more professional gigs. Okay. So I appreciate the house parties and I appreciate, the busking to no end, but my goal definitely is to do more open mics, go to more bars, go to more restaurants, really get out there. Even if I'm up against people, that are a million times better than me, I would love to at least be around those people, because that would be the only way to get better. I'd also, I want to work on songwriting more. So as of now, I only have about 1 or 2 original songs under my belt, because I've been so focused on doing covers and just sounding good when I sing. So what I really want is to have albums on Spotify in 5 years. I want to have a YouTube presence. I want to have things that I can say that are mine, that are my voice, because I've spent so much time doing covers that sometimes I sound like other people whenever I sing something.
And look at me, I'm completely taking over his question now. We have met for a reason. That is what I do. That is where I am. I'm all about, that's why I was overseas for so long and I got lost, because I was being paid to sing covers, to sound like these artists that are huge, that made these songs successful. And it's great, but you got to remember that it's an illusion if they don't know who you are. You're just another singer of many other singers who can sing a great Beyonce cover, or a great Ariana Grande cover, or Ed Sheeran.
But there's only one of them.
But there's only one of them, and they already did what they had to do to make their dreams come true. So if look, and there's no shade to great, amazing cover singers,
of course not.
Because they can look. Some people might not have the money to go to these concerts and see the real thing, but having a amazing performing artist perform some of your hits can be the closest that you can get, and there's no shade in that. But if you have something in your spirit, something that you want to say, writing, and you have that drive and that passion, it's only a disservice to keep that voice quiet. So I'm happy. One song, a half a song, I don't give a shit. You just get a start. And the fact that you actually put that down, 1 or 2 songs in, you are in the right camp, because that's what we do at Delphi Productions. We write, we perform, we leave our blood, sweat, and tears on the street, and eventually, whether or not we become big billionaires, we know that our songs are going to touch somebody's lives. So if you have a story to tell, just keep on going, and I can help in any way possible with that process, because I am the songwriting queen. Self-proclaimed, baby. Okay. So just a few more questions, okay?
Yes.
One, I think I mentioned to you that I was kind of interested in the busking world. I've never busked before. But why did you decide to start busking? And were you ever kind of like nervous about busking, or had any, trepidation about doing it? And what's it like being a busker?
It's cathartic, and I know I love it because time flies. I don't feel time move whenever I'm busking. It's very... I blink and it's sunset, I blink and it's nighttime, and I could stand there for what feels like forever, until either my voice gives out or until the law tells me that I need to go home because people aren't asleep. And that was how I knew I loved it.
Okay.
And it's very rewarding to see people walk by and dance, to see people, give a thumbs up to you, even if it's not money, for people to even record you and then to pan over to the scenery around you because you're adding to it. That's the best feeling in the world, because to come from a place where I would sing and people would roll their eyes, or they would put on their headphones or cover their ears, or even sometimes tell you things, to go from that to having people ask you how you got there. Like, I've had people come up to me and say, like, how long did it take? And I remember asking myself, oh my God, how long is this going to take? Because I was there. And, you know, the whole reason I love busking too is because it is the epitome of putting yourself out there. And, you know, not doing it for money, because that's not always a guarantee, but doing it because you love to do it. And that's what it's about. And that's really the test. You know, if you can be there for hours, and even if you see that the bucket's not filling, but you still keep going with the same intensity, and even if you sang the same song like 5 times, like if you still sing it like it's the first time with the same effort, then people are going to notice, and you yourself are going to get better because of that.
Why am I trying? Why do I want to cry right now? Like, I mean, this is the epitome of being an artist. You know, there's no guarantee that anybody wants to listen to your music. They don't know what struggle or what's real and what's not. But the fact that you're out there sharing it, and there is somebody that is moved by it, and you might not ever meet them, that to me is why I create what I create, because I have been moved by amazing songs, and they have no clue who I am. And it's like, thank you so much for taking the time to invest in yourself, because it's helping me.
And if I could add too, the whole reason I started was because at a certain point, I had nothing left in terms of a social life, because, you know, I had my son very young, and the way that I went about that whole situation was all wrong. I was a kid, you know, I thought I had my whole life ahead of me. I was definitely into music, but I wasn't driven, not motivated like I am now.
Wow.
And I always thought to myself, I've got time, you know, like, what's the rush? Why do I need to write a song now? What's the rush? I'm 17 years old, 18 years old, you know, I wasn't really in it like how I am now. And the whole reason I started was because, you know, I was living that 9-to-5 life, that dead end job. You know, you wake up, you work, you go home, you eat, you sleep, you know, just over and over. And it was just that mixed with fatherhood. And, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, that being a father is a bad experience, but it's another job. It's basically like working 2 jobs nonstop every single day. And I needed a way out. So, you know, eventually I started taking my guitar with me to work.
Oh, wow.
And I had started seeing interviews of Ed Sheeran and all these artists that all claim that they practiced every single day, 1,000 hours. And Ed Sheeran's father even said that not a day went by where Ed Sheeran didn't play his guitar for at least 10 minutes. Because if he couldn't find time to play for at least 10 minutes to do what he loved in 24 hours, just for 10 minutes, then his priorities were wrong. Something was wrong. Something was not, you know, he wasn't in it. That's not what you love. If you could find at least that little bit of time, and that's what I did. I took my guitar with me, and I had 10-minute breaks for my first job, and I would play guitar for those 10-minute breaks, or I would exercise. And then on my lunches, I wouldn't eat. I'd eat a big breakfast, and I'd sneak in food when I was working. I'd take like a banana or like a really quick protein bar, just so I wouldn't waste time on my lunch eating, because I really wanted to practice what I loved, singing or like exercising or something. And, you know, those 10 minutes every single day, they add up.
Absolutely.
Those 30 minutes add up. I got another job, and then all of a sudden, it was still a full-time job, but I had an hour lunch now, and I had 15-minute breaks. And it was because I learned how to utilize such little time in my first job that seemed like forever. And that was when I started. I worked at a hardware store that was next to a Target. Mm-hmm. And I started singing on top of my car, and people were starting to notice. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't think I was there yet, because to me, I still sounded like a beginner. And then one day I just said, I'm going to sing in front of the Target. I'm going to sit on one of those balls, and I'm going to start playing, and I'm going to see what happens. And people started giving me money. I didn't have a bucket. I didn't have my hands out. I didn't have anything. People were just coming up to me and giving me money because I sounded good, or they appreciated that I was brave enough to do that with no amp, or, you know, no one backing me up. And it went back to that thing I learned in college. You know, if you could stand somewhere and just open your mouth and sing, and you're good enough for people to stop and hear you, or to, you know, if you're playing something and it sounds so good that people, even if you're not asking for anything, will stop and just admire you, then that's how you know that you've made it. So that was why I started doing it.
I am literally about to like tear up. It's like I feel like I'm interviewing a future celebrity. And I felt this way before with other amazing talents. But there's something about, I feel like I'm just getting on the ground, and before somebody actually writes a $1 billion song that changes the lives of, you are absolutely exceptional, Geo. I'm sincerely grateful that you took time to come here today.
You gave me the opportunity.
I just have one more question for you.
Yeah.
All right. This is actually a 2-parter question. All right. Number 1, what or who motivates you the most? And any advice that you have to give to people who are actually interested in doing what we do creatively? Who motivates you the most, or what? And what advice do you have for people who are looking at this right now?
In terms of who, definitely my son. And, the people I care about and I love, for sure, but definitely my son. Because I really want him to grow up knowing that there's more than one way to do things. That you don't have to work a job that you don't like. At least not, for your whole life. That's not all that you should be doing. He motivates me because, I see myself in him. Both my parents either gave up what they loved, or they worked, and they still do because they thought that was the only way, and that was all that they learned how to do, and they never really took that chance because nobody really gave them that chance, and nobody really told them that there were other ways to do it. So, my son motivates me to take that leap so that he can see what can happen when you stick to something. In terms of what motivates me, it's two things. For one, it's legacy. Like I said, I want to do, right by my parents, because I do appreciate what they sacrificed for me, and I did learn a lot. I learned hard work from my dad, and I learned self-sacrifice from my mom. But I want to do things different than they did. I want to be able to do what they did for my son, but also do what I love, because they didn't put themselves first, and I really want to see what happens when you can do both. And I've seen people do both, and I've seen people do both with way less, which is why I really look up to Ed Sheeran and people like Sylvester Stallone, because Ed Sheeran and Stallone both, they were homeless at a point. Ed Sheeran was, I believe, 16 when he was couch hopping, and he just left home. He couldn't sing, and he pursued the music anyway, and he spent nights, in the subway, and sleeping on the road, or like on random strangers' couches from gigs, because at the end of every gig he would say, if anybody's got a couch that I could sleep on, I'd appreciate it. And he did that for 4 years straight. He wrote songs on the road for 4 years straight, barely having food to eat, sometimes doing gigs for free, just to get that experience. And after 4 years, he got his big break. He got noticed. Somebody interviewed him, or they picked up on him, and they gave him a shot. They gave him an audience. They gave him a platform. And there was never a doubt in his mind that he was going to make it, even when he couldn't sing, even when he had no money, even when he had no songs. And that's what motivates me too, because I've been doing covers for what feels like forever. It's been years. And, it's almost embarrassing to say that I only have 2 songs under my belt. But then I think about the people that have started with, again, less, and the people that have more on their plate, more to lose. And I have no excuse. I have a car. I have a roof over my head. I have a loving family. They support me. There's no excuse for me. Absolutely. So that's what motivates me, is that it's been done before, and it's been harder for others. And my son really is the driving factor in that.
And what advice do you have for anybody who's trying to, or thinking about, or hesitating but wanting to really explore their creativity but not knowing how?
You learn nothing from success. You learn everything from failure. And you really need to learn how to take those hits head on at first, because if you don't know how to take the criticisms, and if you don't know how to humble yourself and listen to yourself and really, be true to yourself, know where you're starting, then you're never going to get very far, because if you're so self-conscious with how bad you sound when you start, or how you don't know how to do something, there will never be a right time to start. The planets are not going to align. It's not good to wait for some kind of signal or sign. Everyone starts somewhere, and everyone's bad when they start. Nobody's born with talent. At least not a lot of people. I know I wasn't, and I know Ed Sheeran wasn't. And if he made it as far as he did, everybody can. There's nobody that can't. That's what I feel.
Oh, listen, I feel like this is Oprah right here, a little Oprah, Geo, I am, like I said, there was a reason why I stopped, and I was blown away, and I was just inspired to stand there and listen to you for a while and watch you interact and watch you share your talents with the world. And I'm grateful more than anything that you chose to follow up with me. Like, you didn't have to, I was just a regular person. You never saw me before, but you actually called and you was like, hey, I'm the guy who you saw outside. I'm the artist. What's up? And I'm thankful that our paths were meant to connect, and you were meant to be a part of this. And who knows what the future holds for us and our connection. But I want to say thank you for taking your time, for just sharing your story with my audience and me as well, because I'm definitely grateful that there are artists out there who do this for the love, who do this because it feels like something that they need to do to express that creativity. And I champion you in every way for being a great father.
Thank you.
For putting your family first, for acknowledging the sacrifices that they gave to allow you to do what you want, and for you to also want that for your child. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what's up.
I turn my music up.